honestly think there's a real possibility that RJ Barrett is in this trade that goes down in exchange for Donovan Mitchell. Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to Yelling and Propelling, episode number 11. Shout out to Jake Fisher, Mark Berman, and Adrian Wojnarowski, who have all been keeping us up to date on everything Knicks and everything Donovan Mitchell in what has been the summer of Donovan Mitchell. And now with September upon us and Labor Day weekend around the corner, we can assume that the summer of Donovan Mitchell is over. And since a deal has yet to have been made, we are entering the fall of Donovan Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen. But big shout out to them three, obviously. I can't give a shout out to every one of my sources. Obviously, Shams has been great as well. But yeah, those are just the first three that popped into my head. The first three that usually pop up on my Twitter feed the most often. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I wanted to mention that this episode, you might have noticed, is coming out a little bit earlier in the week than most of my episodes do. I normally like to post on Fridays, and then if I'm late, which I usually am, they don't get posted until Saturdays and maybe even Sundays. So, but that's the whole thing I wanted to address, because in my channel trailer, which I still have as my active channel trailer, I say that I will post episodes bi-weekly, Friday mornings, 7 a.m. on the dot. And obviously, I have done a horrible job sticking to that. Not only the bi-weekly part, but I don't even think I have posted an episode at 7 a.m. because I'll wake up at like 6:30, but I still gotta like upload it, and I don't have the greatest internet, so it takes time. And I just want to put out there now, I'm gonna be posting. It's still gonna be bi-weekly episodes, right? Like you'll still get an episode from me, say 2-3 times a month, so you'll get like 2 to 3 episodes each month from me, but it's not gonna be like as much like Fridays exclusively. Do you know what I mean? So. And I would actually advise against doing that if you are creating content as more of like a hobby like I do, and you have like other things going on, you have a busy schedule, other obligations to take care of. If you create content in a way like I do, then I would advise against having a set date that you post everything, and then you never post outside of that date. Because number one, it's just that much harder, and just having that deadline it makes it a little bit more daunting. And number two, things happen throughout the week that you don't want to miss. Like, I could post an episode today, and then tomorrow Donovan Mitchell gets traded to the Knicks, and I don't talk about it for another 2 weeks. So you don't want that. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to put out there first and foremost, that I am going to be switching that up a little bit. A new channel trailer is forthcoming where I'll elaborate on this in a more sophisticated manner than I am right now. But anyways, welcome back once again to the show. I'm going to give you guys a quick weekly recap segment because not too much has gone down. Again, like I stated in the last episode, we're in a bit of a dry spot for the offseason. Not too much is happening. No big trades, no big signings. Those are all past us. And we're just kind of, waiting for training camp. Udonis Haslem is back for his 20th season in the NBA, all of which have been on the Miami Heat. He might never retire at this point, but he's amongst only Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan. Don't quote me on this part, but I want to say it's only them three now that have been with the same franchise as a player for more than 20 years, or 20 or more years. So shout out to Udonis Haslem. He should probably save the Heat a roster spot and just take the assistant coaching role that they've been trying to offer him for the past 9 years. But yeah, dude wants to stay on the bench, and he's always ready to play. So some absolutely terrible news broke for Oklahoma City Thunder fans. Just about a week ago, it was reported that number 2 overall pick Chet Holmgren will be out the entire 2022-2023 NBA season due to a right foot injury. He suffered some ligament damage. Actually, in the Pro-Am game he played, I'm not really sure if he played more than the one. I remember he was playing one with LeBron. But in that Pro-Am game he played in, he suffered a foot injury, ligament damage, and he's going to be out the entire year recovering, trying to get back to 100%. So while it was like super cool to see these NBA stars and like up-and-coming stars go dominate in these gyms for like a day or two, and give fans the chance to watch them dominate when they might not ever be able to afford to go to an NBA game. Like, that was great and giving them that opportunity, but now it's like do I want to let my face of the franchise go and play in some pickup games and possibly get hurt? And it's just like, a silly pickup game when, we need this guy. And I don't know. It like, obviously the Thunder aren't going to be, like, they're not in win now mode. And it's not like this Holmgren injury is like, crap, now we're not going to make the playoffs. They were never really like a playoff team to begin with going into this year. That's not a good argument to make saying, it's fine, he got injured, like, it'll be good for next year. This could completely derail a guy's career. Like, ligament damage is not anything to mess with. And, so it's just kind of going into next offseason, probably will have GMs and coaches a little more cautious when they say, hey, yeah, you can go play, wherever you want this summer, go, play your heart out in some Pro-Am games. So, yeah, just a pretty crazy scenario, and wish a very speedy recovery to Chet Holmgren. Guess what the Lakers did just about a week ago? They finally got rid of Talon Horton-Tucker, who has been in trade rumors since, like, the day he became a Laker. They actually acquired Patrick Beverley in exchange for Horton-Tucker and Stanley Johnson. So now you got Beverley and Russell Westbrook on the same team who notoriously do not like each other, and quite the backcourt there in LA, so that trade went down. That was pretty crazy. And you wonder if the Lakers are looking to make more moves. I think that they definitely are. I can't imagine that this is the only thing they do in the offseason. So yeah, that's pretty wild. But do you know the most wild thing that has gone down? Do you know where the most buzz has been since the last time that I spoke to you, ladies and gentlemen? It has been in New York with the Knicks, because very soon after I released my last episode talking about how the trade talks between the Jazz and the Knicks had 100% stalled out, and I explained how these types of situations should be handled. And after that, just, I don't know, maybe it was like a few days, maybe a week after that, it was reported by Shams that the Knicks and the Jazz had just recently started talking again, and they just restarted the negotiations, and we were getting it all going again. As expected, the Jazz went to a number of other teams and heard their crappy offers and realized, man, the Knicks really do have the best offer for us. So they came crawling back like we all knew they would. So what have Leon Rose and Danny Ainge been discussing this time around? I'll tell you what, it isn't small talk. They give each other a ring now, and they skip all of the, hey, how you doing, how's the family nonsense. They skip all of that. Before the break happened, before the infamous break that both front offices went on, the Knicks included Quentin Grimes in almost every offer that they sent to the Jazz. He was also handpicked by the Jazz as one of the young guys in our batch of young talents that they wanted back in this deal. So Quentin Grimes, that's one thing. He was a focal point of this trade getting done. He was a big reason why there was a lot of mutual interest, right? Number two, the impact. One of the reasons that there was such an impasse was because the Knicks were rather reluctant to include either Emmanuel Quickley or Obi Toppin. They didn't want to include either, let alone the both of them, in a deal, and the Jazz felt that was unfair. And number three, R.J. Barrett was essentially viewed as completely untouchable earlier this summer. He was the only player on the roster that was basically off the table. Like, you can take anybody but him for the right asking price, is essentially the impression that we got with RJ Barrett in these trade talks. He wasn't included. So those are three things we heard a lot about before the big break happened. Then some time passes. Like I just said, the Jazz went and listened to other offers, didn't like them, and then they came back. Not necessarily with a lower asking price than they had before, but with a more clear willingness to work with the Knicks, because they knew that we had the best offer for them. Our B offer, our grade B offer, was better than pretty much every other team's A offer. At least every other team that was actively interested in Donovan Mitchell, our B offer is better than their A offer. So that's why they come back, and they're showing a more willingness to get this deal done. So it's not even like they're any less motivated. If anything, they are more motivated now. Both sides are more motivated now to get the deal done than ever before. So the trade talks begin once again, and we start to hear little tidbits of information from our reliable sources of what things are looking like this time around, what's different, what's the same. Well, We hear that Rudy Gay is starting to be included in some of the offers with Donovan Mitchell, so that's pretty interesting. We hear that the Jazz are not very interested in Cam Reddish for whatever reason. We also hear that the Knicks start including R.J. Barrett in these trade offers to the Jazz. Wait a second. Well, hold up. You said R.J. Barrett? Yes, I said R.J. Barrett is being included in some of the offers we are sending to the Jazz. Now, remember how I just said about a minute and a half ago that R.J. Barrett was basically untouchable at the beginning of summer? Yeah, well, apparently that all went out the window when it was reported maybe like 2 weeks ago, when the trades talks first started getting going again, that some members of the Knicks organization see R.J. Barrett as more expendable than the others, and they see him as somebody that they would like to move in a deal for Donovan Mitchell because, first of all, it'll save them a ton of first-round picks. If you're putting R.J. Barrett in the deal for Donovan Mitchell, that's already like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to throw a random number out there, but maybe that's like 60% of Donovan Mitchell's value. So you throw a couple more things in there, and it's like, there you go. Now we're talking. But yeah, the report came out, I want to say it was Woj, that some members of the Knicks organization believe that R.J. Barrett is not untouchable. They don't see him as an untouchable asset. And then I don't know what changed. Like, I'm assuming that didn't just happen overnight. Like, 3 of the Knicks front office members were like, yeah, R.J. Barrett's like not that great. I think that's something that had been developing, and then the rumors broke. So then trade offers start happening. We start including Barrett in these deals. Now, do I like it? No. I mean, my initial reaction was like, this is crap. This is a load of crap. Like, he's not going anywhere. And to be honest, I had that reaction because I didn't even, like, put it in my mind. Like, I didn't even think that he would ever be included in any trade talks, no matter who we're talking about. Because if we bring back a star, I think of it like he's gonna be playing alongside Barrett, and now we have Brunson. So, like, if we bring back a Donovan Mitchell in a blockbuster trade, it's to play alongside Barrett and Brunson. And we build that big 3, even if it costs us an IQ and an Obi Toppin, then we build with that big 3. So you gotta understand, for me, I didn't even think that was anywhere close to on the table. Like, I didn't even know it was on the floor. You just had to pick it up and put it on the table. I don't know, stupid analogy. Dude, it would really just suck if we went and traded RJ and completely went, because he's been the most loyal guy for, he's only been in the league a couple years, but clearly loves New York, and all of New York loves him, and it would just really blow if we traded RJ. And I know it's good value, like RJ, a couple picks, and we get Donovan Mitchell back, and we build with that. And then all the young guys we have, and that's a good roster, but we're losing R.J. Barrett, man. So it's tough, and it's not something that I can just dismiss. It's not something I can say, well, yeah, that would be sad, but it's not gonna happen, because I honestly think there's a real possibility that R.J. Barrett is in this trade that goes down in exchange for Donovan Mitchell. I really think it might happen. So let me backtrack a little bit, and then I'll circle back to this. In the final week of August, we saw a couple big things go down. Some big news broke, and these might have flew under the radar for you. And for example, the Lakers and the Knicks, something I talked about with Russ possibly being sent to New York and Julius Randle possibly going back to LA, where he started his career. But that was after a Donovan Mitchell deal possibly got done with the Knicks. So that was later in the offseason, and now we're almost watching our 2 worlds collide here, because the Lakers and various other unnamed third teams are being involved now in these talks with the Knicks and the Jazz, because before the infamous big break I keep referring to, before that, earlier in July, it was mainly just Knicks and Jazz 2-team deal, nothing more, nothing less. I guess it can't be any less, because that'd be a 1-team trade, and that doesn't happen. So anyways, now there's a third team involved the majority of the time, and that's normally the Lakers now. So, and the reason that there's mutual interest between the Jazz and the Knicks in bringing in the Lakers for a 3-team deal is because the Jazz are very adamant about receiving later first round picks like 2027, 2028, 2029 even first rounders, and they want those unprotected. And the Knicks are unwilling to give up those later first round picks. They want to give up the 2023, 2024 picks, not the later ones. So that's where another one of many impasses have been. So the Lakers have 2027, 2029 first rounders. So the understanding is that possibly the Lakers give up one of those two to get off of Russ. So say the Lakers send Russell Westbrook and a 2027 first rounder to the Jazz, and then some sweeteners are thrown back to the Lakers that could help them win now. For example, Cam Reddish, they've been very interested in him for the past maybe 2 years, and like a shooter like Fournier and maybe even a Derrick Rose, or a veteran from the Jazz like Bogdanovich, who is rumored to be on his way out sometime very soon as well. A team like the Lakers is exactly what the Knicks need to get this deal done. And just to sum up here, the full details of a three-team trade between the Jazz, Lakers, and Knicks would look something like as follows. The Lakers receive Julius Randle and Cam Reddish from the Knicks, and they get Bojan Bogdanovic from the Jazz. And then, of course, the Jazz receive the house. They get 2 unprotected first-rounders from the Knicks, 2 protected first-rounders from the Knicks, and then 1 unprotected 2027 or 2029 first-rounder from the Lakers. A slew of young players like Quentin Grimes. Maybe it'll cost us IQ to get this deal done as well. And then like maybe a Derrick Rose as a salary filler. And then the Knicks, of course, received Donovan Mitchell as well as maybe Rudy Gay. So it would look something like that. I'm not 100% sure that the money matches up perfectly there. I'm sure there'd have to be other little things that need to get done there. And, man, I actually have heard that the later reports are that the Lakers aren't all that interested in Julius Randle. So maybe that complicates things. Maybe that brings a 4th team into the deal. I've heard some rumors that the Suns are interested in a playmaking power forward or something like that, and that they have some degree of interest in Julius Randle, so maybe somehow the friggin' Phoenix Suns get brought into this, man. But I really do think that the Knicks, if they want to get this done before training camp, call up the Lakers or a team like them that is willing to give up a later first-round pick, depending on what they get back, because that's where the impasse is at this very moment. So moving along, though, because it really got interesting. Things really got interesting Monday night. Monday the 29th, late into the night at around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Woj dropped a atomic bomb and said that the Knicks were finalizing a 4-year rookie extension worth up to $120 million for our own RJ Barrett. The exact numbers, if you happen to be curious, are 4 years, $107 million, with the bonuses that could push that total up to $120 million. So this is what Knicks fans have been patiently waiting for all summer, well before Donovan Mitchell rumors started to erupt. So yes, Barrett finally gets paid, but it couldn't have come at a weirder time. Now, earlier this summer, fans were like, okay, well, why isn't Barrett getting offered his extension yet? And then there was a report that came out that the Knicks front office was waiting to see what was going to happen with Donovan Mitchell, and they were waiting to get a deal done there, and then they were going to prioritize the RJ Barrett extension. So they wanted to get that deal done first. And I don't want to speak for all Knicks fans, but I heard that and I was like, okay, well, I can wait, right? But now we hear, like, in the midst of the two teams starting to talk again and things are starting to get real spicy, then we see RJ gets the extension. So it comes at a very strange time. And just the very next day, Tuesday, on the 30th, we find information that Leon Rose gave Danny Ainge and the Jazz front office Monday the 29th as a deadline. And they said, look, if we don't get a deal done by late Monday night, we're going to offer RJ Barrett a contract extension. And that will be our priority, not getting the deal. So it'll flip, and it did. It flipped completely. And we heard some things throughout that day, throughout Monday. We heard stuff like, oh, they just offered this, they just rejected that, whatever. But it didn't seem like they were gaining any ground, any substantial ground. So Leon Rose said, forget it. We're going to offer R.J. Barrett his contract extension that he deserves. And before I go on, I just want to say that 4 years, $120 million is not the max, and that is an insanely good deal for R.J. Barrett or anybody of his like he has potential to make that look like such an underpay in 2 years, like easily. If he makes like in these next 4 years where he's making $30 million a year, if he makes like 2 All-Star games, say he makes three All-Star appearances in the next 4 years, like $30 million that's an underpay. And the fact that we were able to like satisfy him with less than a max is crazy. And I just know it's because RJ's like all-time good guy. Like he definitely was like, yeah, I want to stay with this team, and I'm willing to take a bit less money than I was initially looking for. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. I'm super happy about that price. I don't know how you could even remotely complain that that's an overpay. Keep in mind, before Monday, the only thing that we had heard about R.J. Barrett in the trade rumors was just the initial report saying that some members of the organization saw Barrett as an asset that could be moved, right? And we didn't hear much else after that. We didn't hear any package that actually included him. And then we hear of the contract extension, and we're like, bam, he's staying, right? Like, that's the impression it gives off. At least to me, you please correct me if I'm wrong, but I really felt like hearing that, the Leon Rose deadline, and then bam, we extend Barrett, that gives off the impression that we're keeping him and we're locking him down for the future. So, like, if you wanted him, Monday's your deadline, Monday passed, bam, we give him the extension, like, now he's off the table again. So, work with, like, what else we got, That was my understanding of it. But clearly I was wrong. Because, guys, I got a bomb for you. My own Woj bomb. The most recent offer that the Knicks have sent to the Jazz and that the Jazz rejected, by the way, this is 100% true. This is not just like speculation. Per Shams, the last offer that was sent to the Utah Jazz was R.J. Barrett and 2 unprotected first-round picks in exchange for Donovan Mitchell. And the Jazz said no. That was not deemed close enough by the Utah Jazz. So the contract extension, it almost seems like it didn't really mean jack. And that hurts because, like, how can we celebrate RJ getting a nice contract extension and saying, yeah, let's go, we got 4 more years of the Maple Mamba, when in reality we might only have 4 more days. So again, I circle back to this whole like being upset that we're including RJ Barrett in these deals, and again, I say it's a tough scenario, and it's a business. That's what everybody says, and it's so true. It's a business. You could take a guy like RJ who has been like phenomenal. He's been a complete professional, and he's improved every single year, and you can just blindside the fan base and trade this guy away from your team in exchange for someone better. Like, I don't think anybody doubts that Donovan Mitchell is better and significantly better than RJ Barrett. That's something that I'd assume everybody can agree on. We value him so much as Knicks fans, and it's so true. I value him so much, and if I'm Leon Rose, and if the Jazz were the ones offering me that deal with Donovan Mitchell in exchange for 2 unprotected first rounders and Barrett, honestly, I don't think I would say yes. I'd have to be convinced. I personally, I'm happy that they declined that. I'd much rather, the big package where we send a crap load of first rounders along with Grimes, along with maybe even a Quickly. I don't know. Maybe I'm valuing RJ Barrett too high. But ladies and gentlemen, you let me know. Am I putting RJ Barrett on a pedestal that I should not be putting him on? Would you trade RJ Barrett for Donovan Mitchell? I'm going to pose that question. Please give me your opinion on it. I'd absolutely love to hear it. But anyways, thank you so much for listening to episode number 11 of Yelling and Propelling. Some crazy stuff going on as we inch closer and closer to the beginning of the regular season. Training camp is before that, so we inch even closer to that. And I'll double, triple, quadruple down on the fact that Donovan Mitchell will be on the Knicks before the beginning of the season, while the RJ Barrett contract extension does complicate things for sure, I'm still basically just as confident that he'll be a Knick by the beginning of the season. So there's my take on that. Thank you guys again for listening to Yelling and Propelling. Have a superb rest of your day or night, and I hope to see you again soon. Go Knicks.